artificial intelligence is playing a key role. And when it comes to data center, the primary topic you would have seen is around sustainability, right? So we want green data center, but can I make it predictive when it comes to sustainability in the end, right? So that is where AI ML is playing a very important role. If I can predict the power uses in the data center, and there are factors around how I would be able to reuse the energy which is required for the data center. If you know, in Europe, there is a big energy crisis going on, and the prices are increasing drastically because of power shortage, right? AI and ML would play an important role on how they can maintain the sustainability while we always look for technology advancement and a lot of things what we are doing, right? The second is around the enhanced performance forecasting and making sure that how I will be able to meet my future needs. One is basically forecasting how much power, energy would be required, but then other is digital twins. There is a term which is known as digital twin, right? Basically creating a twin of your data center or a machine on which you want to gather the details on. And then without even impacting any physical server or machine in the end, you are trying to create a digital twin, find out the predictive maintenance on top of it, and then decide next course of action, right? And last but not the least, I think cyber security and the use of cyber AI ML would play an important role when it comes to cyber security, and I know my friend will talk more about it, because it's more of a cyber war which is happening, ransomware attacks and so on. Probably how I can optimize end-to-end login verification, as well as making sure that there is very little human intervention to the critical points which can affect to the overall strategy when it comes to cybersecurity. So users of AI ML would be key to make data center more secured, not only logically, but also restricting to a lot of physical access. And maybe I'll then hand it over to Sudhir for...
Thank you, because you touched upon a very relevant point of the efficiency, the resiliency, the cybersecurity aspect of it. And while we talk of the data center, and since morning we are all talking about the data centers, and we are looking in for the next age data centers, where we are trying to work out on the efficiency of data centers. We are all relying on data. Every month, everybody is trying to consume almost, Airtel gives you 300 GB of data to be consumed. That's the amount of data you're consuming. But where is that data being hosted? So data centers play a major role. But are they really efficient? Are they really going to deliver you the next gen technologies which you are working on? Are they going to deliver you the cloud computing applications what you are really working on? So over to you, Sudhir, how are you going to really smarten the existing data centers? So what are your views on it?
So while we typically make decisions based on these discerning KPIs, and that's why we have a deep-rooted understanding of which player that we would want to get into. And to answer what you said is, the future is all about having data centers which are AI-driven, where decisions get done in that manner, where you will be able to not only reduce costs, but increase efficiencies. So earlier it was proactive, reactive, now it is time for predictive. The moment you are able to cull out, the data that is coming up your way and slice and dice it and decipher it and then take the right kind of discerning decisions, your productivity will increase, your customer stickiness and soreness will have an impact on it, and obviously it is a decision-making cycle at both ends when it comes to onboarding of customers as well as onboarding of investor, for that matter. That if I build a business and there is somebody who's going to come from outside and invest into my data center, am I relevant to him from not only today, but a future readiness in terms of understanding of what technology is there with me? So it's a cliche that I run with my team, and but unfortunately or fortunately, it is applicable everywhere. It's not important what you have, but what is it that you do with what you have is important. So while we are rich in knowledge in terms of having the right kind of manpower, skilling, everything, but are we able to orchestrate that together to be able to get the right kind of productivity outputs and take this to the next level is what we've seen some of our data center partners getting into, and that gives us a lot of hope that future, especially the 24 to 36 months period, there is a lot of action that will actually be seen, not on the drawing board, but actually on the ground, so to speak.
I think predictive part is important. Moving away from the drawing board is important, and we are talking of all the smart buildings in the future of the data centers. Yeah, so that is what is the way forward. And I have Chinmay, Dr. Chinmay, who is the master of the command and control centers and the IoT. And the situation is such that we are looking for a situation where all the IoT devices in the smart cities are going to be pushed onto the edges. The data is going to be on the edge. It's not going to be in center anymore. So edge data centers are going to be the future. And we are going to be talking of all the cognitive intelligence, which you will have the sensors picking up and giving the cognitive intelligence right at the edge, right? And then that information actually travel down to the command and control center. So that's a new kind of design what we are looking in from the data center. So how the AI is really going to play, because while we talk of the cognitive intelligence, the predictive intelligence, prescriptive intelligence, how you're looking at the command and control centers who are going to have the data at the edge taking shape with the AI and ML.
Thanks for an insightful question, Colonel. Well, so as the infrastructure which is called to be intelligent or smart, right? So, but what it actually makes smart is the way it is being operated, number one. And the way it is being maintained, second. And third one, the way it is being, brought into the regular functional addressing, especially, if I have to call it as that way. So the command control centers are going to be evolving considering the enormous amount of the elements which are going to collect to them. Let us categorize the data into two different parts. One is a functional data, another is a operational data, right? The operational data is being pushed by the machines which are connected, which could be IoT driven or it could be any other communication technology driven. So, of course, maintaining that data is quite important, as also that is noisy data. Now, without intelligence or without the help of the artificial intelligence, we cannot, operate on that, or we can maintain that. Because there is mostly, if I have to term it in this way, 80% to 85% is a noise, and remaining 15% can be some meaningful data out of it. Second is the functional data which is generated by the user of the entire infrastructure. That is like, okay, there may be the respective users who use the systems such as apps or any kind of governance systems or ERP systems they generate. That is another set of data, which is, widely used for business analytics, and everybody does the machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotic process automation on top of that. But the first part which I have said, that is the operational data, is most ignored, but it can be used for deriving such kind of intelligence which can be really impactful in terms of infrastructure sustainability as well as the operational efficiency. This is what I foresee. And to do this, the integrated command control center kind of a concepts, or unified management, unified operation control, or intelligent operation control kind of a concepts can help out a lot. That's what I foresee.
Thank you, Dr. Chinmay, and very rightly said, because this is the future. Data centers at the edge is the future, and cognitive intelligence is at the future. Predictive intelligence is at the in the center stage. So I will move to Saurabh, and what we are seeing presently is we are always struggling with the uptime of the data center, right? And we want to have the maximum operational efficiency, functional efficiency, and there are lots of age-old methods which are still being used in data centers to maintain the uptime. And that's where the challenge lies. So, Saurabh, what is the AI and ML, going to play a major role? How they are going to play a major role in improving the uptime? Because that's what all the tier 3, tier 4 data centers, name to fame, they keep that, telling that the uptime is high, PUE is high, right? So that's what they really harp on. So how AI and ML really work in that areas? Over to you, Saurabh.
Thanks a lot, and it's a very, very valid question in today's environment, where we have all data, and the data centers are very becoming the core infrastructure component, and the uptime of that infrastructure is the critical thing. Now, AI and ML has a major role to play in making sure that the systems are up and running, they are secure, and all the threats or any challenges are handled before they are reaching the set system itself. Now, it's difficult for a normal human being or the workforce to maintain the systems at that efficiency level or that operational level until unless we have right artificial intelligence and machine learning, which are working harder 24/7 to maintain the whole system in place. And the tight SLAs and SOPs that the SLAs that we had to maintain, and the KPIs that the data centers should have or maintain is not possible without right AI and ML kind of mind which is being running the systems all the time. Now, as Chinmay also mentioned earlier, we can achieve 75 to 80% of major critical uptime SLAs using right correlations or right AI ML capabilities. And today we have developed all the AI ML science which is able to maintain the sustainability factor, efficiency factor, and security factor for the data centers. So when we are talking about 80% maintenance and the efficiency level using certain automation or AI ML capabilities, that means that it's a huge, you can say it's a huge intelligence which we need to develop, and it is being developed and is being used to run the systems. If we are able to empower our data center efficiencies using these capabilities, it's a huge benefit to the systems, society, and because now as we see 5G coming up, all IoT, and lots of intelligence is moving to edge, lots of CPU devices coming up. We have edge, core will anyways will be continue existing. We cannot discount the core, and edge is equally becoming more intelligent. So in that, when such huge volumes, petabytes we are talking about, so we need to have intelligence, the artificial intelligence and machine learnings in place, and at the same time, as we discussed, we need right security also along with the operational uptimes. So use of effective action mechanism, identifying the issues, automatic actions being identified, actions being taken. I'll just share with you, there is a concept, like we all know, zero trust. Zero trust is coming up, right, in the data center security. At the same time, there is a zero touch. So zero touch means that you don't need human intervention in running the operations of a data center. So if we combine zero touch with zero trust, that means the 360-degree operations are being run on automated systems. I am sure it is not 100% achieved, but that is what we are trying to lead to. And if we are able to achieve this thing, which surely as a system or technologists, we will, we will certainly achieve. We have seen technology doing wonders to us. It's that pinnacle of the infrastructure monitoring and infrastructure uptimes using AI and ML. And that is where we will be able to give true digital experience to the end consumers. And I think as a society, we are thriving to experience that ourselves. And as organizations, we are aspiring to introduce such systems to the ecosystem, I can say.
I like the idea of zero trust to zero touch, and that's where it's very important that how do we do the automation part in the data center. And over to you, Kanishk, because I'll change the gear from the data center build to what's there in the data center. And the IT assets which are there in the data center are the major concern. Like in your organization, if I ask you, how many IT assets do you have? Do you have the visibility of it? I can vouch for it. 90% of the CISOs will say no. Even the CIOs will say no. You may say, I know everything, but if IT assets, if you really look at it, you will be unaware of shadow IT assets which are there existing since ages, which you never even bothered to take them off from the network because you kept on adding those additional devices over a period of time. And that's not the case only in any organization, it does happen in the data center itself. You know, we have servers which get added, we have the storage which is there, we have the power UPSs, batteries which are connected. Do we take them off? No. So Kanish, over to you. What are the challenges which emanate and how do we really look in that AI is really going to help us in the management of the IT assets which are there? Because shadow devices is a big problem. And by the way, I can tell you, before he preempts, I can attack a shadow database or a server and bring the complete data center down. So that's the kind of concern what we have. So over to you, Kanishk.
Thank you, Colonel Indrajit. So very important point highlighted by you around shadow IT, and today it is becoming the weakest link. Normally when I engage with companies to secure the data center, the first issue that I find is people are not aware what kind of assets are lying. Their asset baselining is not completely defined. If they don't know if they have set up a particular application, what it is being used for, people leave. The identity and access management becomes a huge issue, right? On multiple machines, there are instances which are set up, which nobody is using, but are still lying there. And when cyber attacks happen, they become the weakest link, and this leads to ransomware attacks. And I've seen in case of lot of companies, even banking and financial services company, I was recently working with one of the insurance service providers and they were under the IRDA guidelines on cybersecurity. They got hit by a ransomware. The weakest link was shadow IT because unused services being available to outsiders, privilege escalation, leading to compromise at a user level, moving to an admin to a super admin level. That's one of the biggest issues. The other aspect is optimization. What is the latency, the bandwidth which is getting used? How closely are the servers connected? Are you using your machines to the right possible manner? Do you have done your best practices in place? How are you taking care of service management requests? Those are bigger issues. Now in the world today where everybody is talking about ESG, right? And India is going to head G20 by 1st December 2020. India will get questioned on ESG goals. Companies in India which are setting up data centers will have to take care of their carbon footprint. They will have to take care of sustainability, the amount of carbon they are producing. So green data centers is the future, but how do you track? That's where use of artificial intelligence and machine learning comes into the picture. You will have to use smart meters, you will have to use sensors, and those sensors will require artificial intelligence and machine learning to track, to see what is the efficiency. Also, not just cyber security breaches, also physical security breaches. We've seen a lot of attacks. Let's look at 26/11 when it happened. It was not just attack on a terrorist attack, it was also a cyber attack. So today the attacks are going to be cyber physical systems put together. And in the world where we are living in a hybrid warfare environment, securing data centers is equally critical. So smart cameras which use sensors, using AI ML techniques to look at physical security, cameras which have AI enabled are going to be the future, which is much needed, specifically when we are setting up so many smart cities. Thank you, sir.
Very relevant, and cybersecurity is very important, and the way you brought it out is very nice. And Ananya, cybersecurity is key. And I'm now in the data center itself, not on the build. So we will talk on the green data centers from Saurabh and Chinmay and Sudhir. Cybersecurity I want to touch upon, and data center is not just about the building and the data, what they're giving. The problem more is cloud computing, this cloud security, which is important, because we don't know where our data is. And we are all migrating from your physical infrastructure to zero trust. We are migrating to CASB. We are migrating to virtual firewalls, virtual switches, virtual networking devices, and the data centers play a major role. So data center will no more be a vanilla service provider. And if it is a vanilla service provider, I think you will never go away. And one of the USPs which all the data centers are actually, propagating is the better security. And AI definitely will play a role when it comes to zero trust or CASB. So Ananya, I want you to highlight as to how AI is going to really work in the cybersecurity aspects when it comes to offering part of it, how it's really going to help them really grow as a business and give a better services to people, because security is the prime concern. So over to you, Ananya.
Yes, and I think very interesting points brought by everyone, right? So I think zero trust and zero touch is a nirvana state, which we all want to achieve. There is white papers to solutions to documents written on it, but when it comes to reality, we are still going on that path of zero trust or zero touch, I would say, right? But when it comes to zero trust, right, we'll have to make sure how to maintain and manage our data center in a resilient way, right? So before we talk about it, as someone said, discovery of data is very difficult. If you talk to a customer and say, what is your data, which is required to run your business, typically called as crown jewels, no one knows about it, right? Because they've not done that assessment to identify crown jewels, right? So basically on an application layer or a data layer, for a customer, it is always important to know what is important to them in case they're compromised, which means what are my crown jewels which are required to run my business, right? So identification of right level of data, which crown jewel, is something which should happen as part of business process. And then while you talk about the perimeter security and the best-in-class solutions and tools which we have, what is your strategy in case you're compromised, right? So, I mean, if you're compromised, that is where we do a lot of consulting with our customers as well around cyber resiliency or cyber recovery, which means, do I have a place in data center which is not connected to the network, isolated, offline copy? There's a lot of guidance around it from agencies as well, how to have an offline copy of your crown jewel or business critical data, right? So is there an isolated environment within the data center where I have my crown jewels, along with immutability, which means no one can change that data. And this immutability comes on software layer, and then also a lot of physical security. No one can get into that, let's say, vault. I should call it as a vault or a dark site or a dark server room in the data center, which is truly immutable at software, hardware layer, as well as physical access layer. And then intelligence. Is there a way I will be able to identify even before the attack is activated? I mean, these attacks are like more like sleeper cells. You have malware, if it is not activated, it is not affecting you. But if in case there is some malware in my crown jewels, and if I can run AI ML enabled algorithm on that data and identify that this pattern doesn't look right to me, right? So with the intelligence powered by AI ML, if I can tell on such server, the rack, shelf, wherever, I see there is a file format or a folder format or a database content which is not in line with what the best practices should be. Can my SOC team look at it, run forensics, run tools, scanning, and maybe disconnect the server from network or apply proper measures even before that was activated and it could do any damage, right? So to me, I think identification of crown jewels, having an isolated copy in case you are compromised with immutability in intelligence plays a very, very important role. A lot of customers are looking forward to it, and they are getting prepared when the timer is ticking and they have to decide whether I should pay ransom and even not get the data back. I mean, who can trust them, right? Or I have a strategy where I'll be able to get my data back, at least the crown jewels, as I said, right? And run the business without even paying anything. And that's where the industry is moving to.
Yeah, thanks. Identifying the crown jewels, that's most important in a data center because that's what all hackers are looking in for. And one question, Sudhir, which is very important and everybody looks in for, the power and the cooling part of it, which is a major concern in any data center. And that's where we have to really look in for new technologies, and there's already, we're talking of the green data centers, the cooling, we have different technologies coming up. And AI and ML, when we talk of it, definitely is going to play a major role. So how AI and ML is going to assist in the power and the cooling part of it and the green data center part of it? Over to you.
Thank you. So just to add my 2 cents on what was being said on no touch and the fact that AI and ML typically exactly what you said is what we've seen with our international data center partners is where they've been able to achieve 40% increase in productivity when they have actually deployed this. So while we are speaking something that is a little bit far away here in India, but that is in the realms of reality. And closer home, it hits us more, glaringly because for us, for example, we have an international platform which is Apollon. So unlike here where we do the provisioning with human intervention, over there for a couple of years we have something called as a Mac patch robot. So the entire piece is done seamlessly at the click of a couple of buttons, So what is being spoken about, I can only tell the audience that it's not in the realms of some white paper, but I'm sure that will be here in India very soon. Now coming back to what you said, we've seen a couple of initiatives where the right kind of deployment has happened at these, again referring to those guys since we talk to them pretty often, is the ability to get right kind of savings by using AI ML effectively is gone up from 7.5% to 23% as of now on an international standard, wherein if you are able to deploy these assets rightly and monitor and action them, more again sounding repetitive, becoming predictive, knowing when to, tweak which part of your setup, both on the cooling as well as on the power setup, has led to these significant, and these numbers might seem okay kind of numbers for us, but when you look at the humongous amount of consumption that these data centers typically get into, you will see that it actually augurs well for the industry now, because as I said sometime back in my presentation also, we don't have a lot of legacy infrastructure. As a result of which, what we are going to be deploying today as a country in many of these data centers will already be at a next-gen level. So I am very confident that whatever we've seen as proof of concept and monetization of these investments that are made on the ground today internationally will sooner rather than later be relevant and visible for all of y'all to actually see happening here in India as well.
Yep. Great, thanks for your insights. And Chinmay, one point which is always interesting with you because you've been into the IoT and definitely building data centers and working on the data centers a lot. So what's your 2 cents on when you build up a data center or in a construction or constructing a data center, I'll rephrase that, or retrofitting a data center. What's your 2 cents which you like to give to the people who have the data centers by usage of AI as to how they're going to really improve their efficiency or predictive maintenance? So what's your insights on that, please?
Well, so first and foremost is know your infrastructure, right? So that's the first thing, because most of the data centers, of course, the greenfield data centers, yes, there are some greenfield data centers which are coming, but most of the data center providers or the players or a captive data center owners, they have brownfield. They love to retrofit. They may have, let us say, about old generation machines, facility systems, or maybe old servers or old network devices which they want to just retrofit. Of course, if it is IT asset, then it is not going to be bigger challenge, because time to time there will be a firmware upgrade or the software updates and buyback policies. All these things are going to address. But if it is going to be the OT equipments, right? So where it could be starting from the ATS, automated transmission switch, as well as the diesel generators, UPS, cooling systems, the refreshing of such kind of systems is quite difficult task. So the respective infrastructure owners love to retrofit them into the new way of operating it. So now the thing is to know this. One is know the infrastructure, and also second one is stick to basics, right? Stick to basics is the second aspect, where basics are what? Basics are operating these things. Number is standard operating procedures, SOPs of operating all of them. Second is which, identify the critical assets, failure of which can impact in an immense way on the infrastructure. That's the second aspect. So then know your regular problems, third one, right? So know your regular problems. So if something is occurring again and again, you should know why it is happening faster. Lot of data centers, they do not know that what is happening. And next is about monitor your usage. Monitor your usage in terms of monitoring usage of the servers, the storages. All these things are happening because thanks to the network management systems or even security devices, right? Security management systems and all those things. But again, the facility systems, there is a huge lacuna where people do not know what is happening and why it is happening. Example, a simple study, if I have to say, data center cooling, all of us know that yes, it is a costliest part. But what is that? According to the studies, the power which you spend on your data center, about 30% on an average of it goes in cooling of the data center, right? So that's the huge, the impact on the multiple aspects. One is about your cost. Second is about the sustainability drivers. It is going to impact the sustainability drivers. Carbon emission is more, temperature footprints are more, and all these things, right? So that's the thing. So now identifying such kind of areas, first and foremost, list out your drivers for bringing in any kind of intelligent operations, intelligent management, or the artificial intelligence, machine learning. Of course, all of them are going to stick to the basics of all these things, right? First, identify the drivers, keep monitoring monitoring your operations against these drivers. So that is what we advise. That's how the consultative effort for any such kind of implementation is going to start with.
Yeah, thanks. And the maximum amount of money goes in the power and maintaining that, cooling. And you'll be surprised, the architects are really working on the newer ways of designing data center buildings. They're no more the same kind of buildings what we see or we have seen it earlier. They are all going in for building which are intelligent, building which are power savers, carbon footprint is less. So those are the kind of buildings which are there. And interestingly, I was speaking to one of the architects and he said they are trying to use AI in the building design, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The simulation, first it starts with the simulation, that how it is going to impact. So that is what I think somebody was talking just now about, we use the power of AI to create a digital twin. I think that is, Anai was mentioning about it, right? So just a little bit of a deep dive into this, maybe taking a minute more, is first before you bring in any kind of a MEP, right? Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, implementation on the data centers infrastructure, first and foremost is you can do the simulation of it and see that how it is going to help you overall. So once you do that simulation, the simulation will be done again using the respective raw inputs that you feed to the AI engines. right? Which will give you a pictorial representation or a living 3D experience kind of an, the representation of the entire infrastructure, and you can do whatever it is, like, you can play with that, then try various scenarios and see what may be the potential result. Of course, it may not be exactly the same, but it is near the, exact same. So that is where the simulations have started. I think a lot of infrastructure builders have started that. And then implementing green infrastructure, right? So the green infrastructure it starts with certain standards too, right? So where sticking to the standards and applying those standards, again, you can, simulate such kind of the models, and then those models can be given to your, mainly the EPC contractor who builds the green field build-ups totally, right? So then you can keep on monitoring as it moves in terms of construction and mechanical, electrical, plumbing implementation of it entirely. So that is where, of course, AI can help out a lot in terms of doing such kind of things. Maybe with having the infrastructure, create a digital twin for your operations, intelligent operations, without having, or you want to build a infrastructure, then use it and then start building and then adapt it for your operations. Both the ways it could be, useful.
Thanks, very, very insightful. And while you spoke of the simulation, so you can actually create a heat map of the complete building and see how much of carbon footprint you have, how much of carbon rating you can achieve. So while you have a building, your data center, you're really, kind of doing a carbon rating and you're earning money also. So Sudhir, the other thing, Saurabh, the other question is like, while we talk of building and simulations, we also need to talk of the preventive and the predictive maintenance, what we do right now. We have lots of manual intervention right now, and it's more of a cyclic, or we have a periodic maintenance, preventive maintenance and all. But definitely AI would play a major role when we talk of the preventive and the predictive maintenance. So where are the areas which you think, Saurabh, as to, where we're going to play AI or ML is going to really play a role in?
Very rightly asked, AI has a huge and very critical, important role in the sustainable maintenance of a system. I'll share with you my personal mindset that it's very easy to buy any product or establish any DC or establish any new thing. But the real game lies in maintaining it. Sustainable maintenance is the key for any data center infrastructure or any product for that matter. Even for example, if you buy a refrigerator in your house and if it is not maintained properly and it is not running, then your ROI or TCO, whatever terms we coin, it's of no use if you are not able to maintain and run it and use it for a certain period of time. One thing. Second thing, use of AI now. So when we talk about the maintenance part of it, there is preventive maintenance, there is predictive maintenance, and there is prescriptive maintenance. Now, what does it mean? So as a company also, and as a system, we have to have these three areas of maintenance covered when we are talking about AI, okay? Which means that we do analysis of the data which is available to us in the running of the IT operations efficiently, that we use that data to have, one is predictive maintenance. Means what? We do predictions that my CPU is running at this load. If we continue like this, it will go beyond this threshold. One thing. My certain components are heating up at this rate. So if we continue like this, then my system will go beyond this temperature, it will come down. Means it will die down or something like that. So that is prediction. Now, that is one part. Then there is preventive AI. What is that? That we put certain threshold and automatic action points in the system itself where it prevents such incidents to happen. Okay? That is preventive AI part. Then there is prescriptive. That means that if something is happening, is being observed by the system, then system should be able to prescribe certain actionable items which the ops team can use for intelligent and actionable steps. So these three are preventive, predictive, and prescriptive. These three types of maintenance AI-based inputs are critical for running the efficient data center operations. When we do these things, we will be able to have a very, very operationally efficient infrastructure in place. I think.
No, please continue.
Okay. I thought. Okay. No, I'm done as well. I think I have shared my mindset on the question here, that how and what AI has a role in running the operationally efficient data center. And these three things are very important when we design or create a vision of running an efficient data center. And sustainability is a key. If we do these things through AI, any AI system that we deploy, if we have these three pillars of AI incorporated, then in terms of green building, infrastructure, operations, IT, asset management, security, all these things will come under these ambits. Okay, I am done from this.
So, a small add-on to what was being spoken about is the fact that do we really see these things happening in the straitjacketed manner? No, but there are a lot of organizations which go that extra mile when they commit themselves to the green ecosystem in their own way. And what I have been able to observe within India is how this particular organization, because they haven't used this outside, so I wouldn't want to name them, but using AI/ML effectively within their data center here in Mumbai, for example, in India, wanting to see where they are going to be in terms of their green goals, go ahead and deploy a 10-acre solar setup somewhere in Maharashtra, and then looking at the trends and the analytics that come in, they say, no, this is not good enough, let's go ahead and make it a 25-acre setup, so that ultimately it is a commitment that they made to themselves. And overall, how is it that people look beyond the obvious, which is profits? Obviously, everybody is in business to make profits, but how committed they are and how are they being able to use the current data crunching that is happening with an intelligence that can bring to the table for them to take these discerning, because as you know, it's not easy to get up one day and say, I would want to have so much more land parcel available, even if it is a little bit far away location. So rather than the standard use cases, there are use cases where we've seen people going beyond and above the normal use cases that you and I talk about, and taking those discerning calls, which gives you a lot of confidence that yes, things are being put to use for the right things that we are able to observe. So just to add.
Thanks. Yeah,
Just I would like to add what Sudhir is saying, and we all thrive to achieve zero touch or zero trust, or even complete or fully effective preventive, predictive, and prescriptive and AI. And we know that they are all something very, there'll be nirvana, as rightly mentioned by our colleague. So point is that if we see, planning and strategies helps us a lot. And we have seen that maybe that our planning and strategy around these coined terms may not be able to give us 100% returns, but it really helps to achieve certain state. And I have personally observed across organizations that it really, in terms of efficiency, in terms of operations or securities or even price or cost, everything, that's what we all want to achieve at the end.
Just want to highlight a couple of, hindsides of AI. One hindsight of AI is bias. People who are developing AI usually are white males or males developing. So a lot of times basics are missed out. And if you look at some of the things that we have experienced with chatbots, is they will miss out on multiple elements. A lot of times they will reveal information which they should not be revealing, even to customers. So safeguarding and building what the AI is able to share with outsiders is very, very important. And a lot of time AI gets into breach of information, confidential information, particularly personal identifiable information of customers. We see that today AI is being used for reading into a lot of information, but a lot of times they are able to reveal data to third parties or outsiders which should not be revealed. So how do you build a bias-free and a secure AI is also very, very important. Thank you.
A very relevant point by all three of you. One thing I want to tell you is, we talk of the prescriptive maintenance, we talk of predictive maintenance, preventive maintenance. And we use the AI and ML as a term very loosely, right? This is very important to understand. AI is a superset. Machine learning is a subset, okay? And machine learning is the one which is happening. So we talk of three types of AI. One is a supervised AI, semi-supervised AI, and independent AI, right? Or the one which is on its own. So presently what we are doing is, we are training the data, the machine learning in a supervised AI. So presently what algorithms you see, whatever data scientists are giving you, they're all supervised. There's nothing which is on its own. You're giving them the data, it's giving you the results, right? So that's how it's really working. And after some years, we are going to see the semi-supervised AI. So we are going gaga over AI, but I say, has the AI come? The answer is no, right? We are still in a semi-supervised AI. So instead of using the term AI, if I use machine learning, that will be more pertinent, right? And when I talk of a predictive or a prescriptive or preventive maintenance, and I have the algorithms which are, machine learning algorithms, train the data to tell me when do I really want to maintain the servers, when do I need to want to maintain the power, when do I need want to maintain the building systems, advise on that. Now, one point which, it's the panel side also I'll like to say is, it's all in your data. And if your data scientist goes wrong on deciding the algorithm, it's going to poison the complete data. When I say poison, that means you'll get a wrong output. So everything which comes out of the machine learning or a deep learning, it's not going to be like what you data in, data out. It's a garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. So it may be that if you are putting a poisoned data, the data is not accurate, you may get wrong results. And that wrong results, if you think that it is right, you're gone for a 6. So whenever you do machine learning, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, that one, you have the right algorithms. There are so many, data sets, there are so many algorithms which are there for the AI machine learning. Which algorithm is the best suited for you to give the best results? That's your data scientist who's going to decide on. So whatever has been given is the most important part of it. And that's what my panelists have also brought out about the prescriptive, the building, and the other things which are there. So be very kind of aware of this particular thing of AI and ML when I talk of it. So this is very important. So before we close, 2 cents from each of my panelists. I want to be at sharp 3:45. I just want to close it, bang on time. So 2 cents from each one of you before we say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, I think my 2 cents would be around, while we look at accelerated digital transformation, billions of connected devices, and this is a data decade, right? And there's a lot of meaningful information which we can derive out of this data. As I think Kanesh said, right, ethical use of AI or AI for good would play a very, very important role in deriving meaningful information. And with, as I said, accelerated digital transformation, connected devices, we also have to look at the cyber security point of view, because we need to make sure while we are getting into this digital world, we are also making sure it is secured for end users to consume it. So that is where I would end.
So, as everybody would rightly agree that data centers are the warehouses of the digital economy today, where the entire, growth story will typically be hinging upon. And our own interactions with almost all leading data center players actually give us a lot of confidence that what we are speaking now is being actually thought about, implemented in bits and pieces, and being looked into as a serious effort and endeavor, while some of them have missed their marks for not having used AI/ML. So that learning will be picked up by other folks. So I'm sure in our own small way, this panel would have been able to throw out certain insights which will eventually help people understand that these are not theoretical things that are being spoken about, but things which people have observed, gone through, and we will see fruitification of all these concepts that we're talking about not very far away from today. That's about it from my side. Thank you very much.
Well, so my 2 cents probably is going to save millions of dollars, hopefully, right? That is stick to basics, right? Number one is stick to basics. Be lean in the narrowing down the requirement, right? And know your operations and know your infrastructure, and again, design whatever AI, ML, whatever we call it as the jargonetic terminologies, right? These things are required for running your or making your day-to-day operations more and more efficient and secure. Right? Hence, sticking to the basics in terms of framing the requirements for your machine learning or AI requirements is going to be quite important. That's what I can.
Over to you, Saurabh. Yeah. So as everyone has said, and I think I'm topping upon that only. As I said, zero touch, zero trust, and preventive, predictive, and prescriptive AIs. We all, as partner ecosystem, should plan and try to achieve this, because we have seen in last decade and going forward that this is technology has made everything which we imagined as possible. So these things as well are very much possible, and they are very critical as a part of basics and planning. And once we do that right, probably we all can achieve it, which will help us to have a sustainable ecosystem around us. So this is my 2 cents for in this discussion.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Just 2 points. One, avoid the FOMO, the fear of missing out on using artificial intelligence and machine learning. These are tough to be done. When you're looking at implementing AI or ML, start with a small operation. Try how effectively it is helping you. Look at the business processes that needs to be designed. Isolated programs which are unsupervised using AI and ML don't lead to outcomes. Second, look at security by design and trust by design. Don't let security be an afterthought. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll keep the house open for questions. Yeah, please.
It was a really insightful session and very good panel discussion. Everything is going to be software defined, and it looks very scary. Someone said about nirvana, but it has to be achievable on zero trust in near future. And we have been talking about 3 Ps. I add policy orchestration is a must. Someone spoke about the biases. It is very important if you are touching on intelligence and the learning. What I am curious to understand, at the end of the day, what will be the auditability and how close it is in future? Auditability of intelligence and learning.
I'll pick that out. Yeah. See, that's again a learning for auditors. That's the biggest challenge the Big Four, the audit industry is facing today, because systems which are built on principles of AI, ML, and even blockchain, auditing them, having basic principles, standards, and frameworks are missing today. So one, coming out with standards for auditing AI and ML-based systems is going to be very, very important, which the industry bodies such as ISO needs to focus, NIST need to focus, which is a clear baseline. Second, training the auditors to train and conduct such assessments. The third is self-SRO. which is self-regulated organizations. SRO will play a very, very important role, right? You can have different maker and checker, but SRO is going to be very important for such systems. Thank you.
Saurabh also wants to answer.
No, sure. No, see, first of all, there is a change in terms of technology, in terms of environment, and we will have everything new coming up every 2 years, 3 years, or whatever time frame we take. As a society, we need to evolve. Next thing, we cannot live in the fear of change. Second thing. Next thing is putting the systems in place. Change will come, we will have to put the systems in place with the new realities, right? Yes, after that, the checks and balances also are the part of the ecosystem. So we cannot avoid a whole cycle of this. We need to face this reality. And yes, as you rightly mentioned, sir, auditing is critical component, means whatever we do, if a kid is doing something, a parent is there to audit that activity. A company is doing, there is an auditor for that. So, auditing ecosystem also has to evolve with that. Security checks and balances have to happen. AI will also be there because we know as a technology suppliers, we work in this digital ecosystem, that evolution will happen, it has to happen, intelligence has to come, and the right checks and balances, standardizations will follow that. That is my view on this whole way forward, I would say.
Quick answer to what you are asking, you know. The first part, when do we see the actual happening of it? I have been saying this with a certain amount of confidence that yes, very soon rather than later, because you are privy to certain discussions that go on within the data center environment that we have our discussions normally, number one. Number two, most of the things necessarily don't have to happen serially. They can happen parallelly. While adoption will happen, the checks and balances to make that a robust, doable, scalable setup will also be in place for sure. And I can tell you this, and you will agree upon the fact that more often than not, in hindsight, we become intelligent. Thankfully, the hindsight for an ecosystem like India always is available in the global village, as we call it today. So there is a lot of information and hope available across the globe today on how things have happened, and that will help us shorten our cycle to get it from scratch to implementation and monetization. That's my 2 cents on it.
Well, so audit perspective, right? So coming to the perspective of data center, right? Maybe AI or auditing the AI, purely data center. Yes, the data center is, of course, it has to be software driven, no doubt. SDN is there, like it was there in the networking, now it is in the data center for everything. It is software driven. Now, when you are doing that, right? Obviously, you have data of monitoring too, each of them. Auditing, when you have data, is not going to be a challenge, but standards, right? So standards have to be matured to address that. Tools are available to do so, but what are the standards that we are going right now? When you talk about data center, we will only say TIA standards, correct? Is that the only thing now? No. Any longer, only TIA or Uptime Institute's Uptime audits are not the only thing. There are many audits, even including GDPR audit comes into the picture for each data center, right, nowadays. And ESG audits, sustainability, IGBC audits, or various such kind of ISOs are evolving. It's still evolving, but the frameworks have to be, if you want to just adapt as traditionally we used to do for any audit frameworks, ready-made audit framework is no longer there. Each organization have to think of, first of all, their own standardization based on their own regular, practices and operations, and then keep comparing that because you already have the data. Now, another bonus what you have is the tools. Tools, when you look at collaboratively, you get all those data which you can audit for easily. But standards, each organization, apart from what are all the global standards, have to be internally set up. That's quite an important aspect. In my perspective, that is what it is.
So, thank you for a wonderful question. Actually, it's shaken my panel. Everybody's answering it. It's really wonderful. And thank you very much, everyone, for patiently listening to us. And thanks for such a wonderful, insightful panelists who have given their views on a very futuristic topic, but they made it so simple to understand. And I learned a lot during the panel discussion from my co-panelists. Thank you very much, Bharat Exhibition, for hosting us here for a wonderful day on the data centers, very pertinent topic to discuss. And thank you, Shashidharan, for having us for the panel. Thank you very much. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, Colonel Sir. Thank you so much. We come to the end of the data center event. We have an event in December 6 and 7 talking about the spectrum. What spectrum should be coming in, what spectrum for 6G and all. It's going to be a 2-day event. You will be getting the details soon. We have already given all the mementos to all the speakers in this session except NNA. Now I request Colonel Inderjeet Singh to present the memento to NNA. Yeah, I'll come. I request all the speakers to move on to this so that we'll have a group photo after this. Now let me present a memento to Colonel Inderjeet.